Wise Men. Iconic sculptures and statues adorn major metropolitan cities of the world. In Lagos, Nigeria, the statue of three men designed to depict the state's cultural heritage and to usher in visitors and tourists into the ever-accommodating center of excellence is no doubt an astounding work of art. Originally built under the administration of Colonel Raji Rasaki, designed by Bodu Shodende in 1991 and standing over 12 feet high, referred to as Agba Meta or Aro Meta, the three sculptured chiefs were placed along the Lagos-Ibadan toll gate to welcome people coming into Lagos State. The statue called the Three Wise Men by many has become a major signature for the state. Three white-capped chiefs clad in white wrappers, knotted across their shoulders and with clenched right fists are shown in the artwork. The images fascinate and create impressions in the minds of visitors coming into the state, captivating the attention of visitors who look with keen interest, pondering on the messages which the posture of the engraved images signifies. The Three Wise Men has been relocated thrice from its original position at Ojodu Berger end of Lagos-Ibadan Expressway to Magodo area before its final relocation to its present site at Olowopopo Drive. The sculpture has suffered severe damages over the years and renovated. Bodu Shodende, through this sculpture, depicted the highest honor that can be afforded to anyone in the Eko greeting tradition. The Three Wise Men, Arometa, SOUQ Enlightenment.
I'm okay.
My name is Raymond Bola Brown.
Hi, my name is Fred Amata and you are on to SOUQ News.
If you are watching this channel for the first time, make sure you continue to watch it because this is SOUQ News.
Shout out to SOUQ News. Actually, I don't know. I really enjoyed the little moment I spent with you, and I think with more of this.
SOUQ News. Here's the SOUQ News who had the courage to transcend a locked off camera and actually have a conversation with a human being. It's a pleasure, SOUQ News. Thank you very much.
Tafawa Balewa Square, TBS. Tafawa Balewa Square was initially used as a horsing ground called Lagos Race Course. The edifice was constructed by General Yakubu Gowon in 1972 and named after Nigeria's first Prime Minister, Sir Tafawa Balewa. Tafawa Balewa Square is located at 45/57 Marse Bangboshe Street on Lagos Island, Lagos, and referred to as TBS. TBS is a 50,000-seater capacity venue and houses the Remembrance Arcade, the 26-story Independence House, which at a time was the country's tallest building. When Lagos served as the country's seat of government, the National Assembly Complex was within the TBS. Also in the square are the National Broadcasting Commission Office, the Nigerian Hydrological Services Agency Office, shopping centers, travel agencies, restaurants, car parking lots, and a bus terminal. Tafawa Balewa Square is adorned with beautiful statues of white horses and red eagles, symbols of strength and dignity. Her historic neighbors include the King's College and the Holy Cross Cathedral. Tafawa Balewa Square hosted some of the country's memorable events such as the Independence Day in 1960 when Nigeria gained independence from Britain, the Armed Forces Remembrance Day, which is celebrated annually on January 15. The edifice is a national cultural asset. Tafawa Balewa Square, SOUQ Enlightenment.
My name is Olatunji Shoti-Miri. I'm a performing artist and television radio presenter and a university lecturer, Unilag. Keep watching SOUQ News.
Hello everyone, my name is Kenny Black, Africa's finest music comedian, and you're watching SOUQ News. If you're not watching SOUQ News, I pity you, but keep watching SOUQ News.
Hello everyone, my name is Timmy Dakolo and you're watching SOUQ News. Stay tuned.
Hi, my name is Wisdom Oluwaseun Okoko. co-founder Orbit Africa Properties. I'm live at SOUQ News. Guys, keep watching SOUQ News. For everything that concerns business, economy, politics, news, SOUQ News is your station.
Lateef Jakande. Born Lateef Kayode Jakande in the Ekpetedo area of Lagos Island, Lagos State on July 1929. He studied at the Lagos Public School at Enowa, Lagos Island, then at Bonham Memorial Methodist School, Port Harcourt, King's College, enrolled at Ilesha Grammar School, where he edited a literary paper called The Quarterly Mirror. Jakande began a career in journalism in 1949 with the Daily Service and joined the Nigerian Tribune in 1953. The owner, Chief Obafemi Awolowo, appointed Jakande editor-in-chief of the Tribune in 1956. Jakande established John West Publications in 1975 after leaving Tribune and began to publish the Lagos News. He served as the first president of the Newspaper Proprietors Association of Nigeria, NPAN. Jakande ran for election as executive governor of Lagos State in 1979 on the Unity Party of Nigeria platform. His administration was effective and open and implemented the cardinal policies of his party. He introduced housing and educational programs targeting the poor, building new neighborhood primary and secondary schools, and providing free primary and secondary education. He gave poor people's children education, and many of them are now very prominent in the society today. Jakande established the Lagos State University and constructed over 30,000 housing units. After the military takeover in 1983, Jakande was charged, prosecuted, and convicted of treason and later pardoned. He served as Minister of Works under the Sani Abacha military regime. He died in Lagos on February 11, 2021. Lateef Jakande was the first civilian governor of Lagos State. Lateef Kayode Jakande, SOUQ Enlightenment.
Hello. We have seen the dollar climb up to 8,001 when it comes to Naira against the dollar. And we have also seen the cedi depreciate in the last few weeks down to the last few days. We have seen a lot of dependence on imported products. We've seen ports being built, not just by country or Africa's money, but we've seen Asia bringing in money to build ports. Then we tend to ask ourselves, how can we shore up our own economies, not just looking forward and making sure other economies benefit from their investment in this side of the climb? My name is John Rogers Chuks, and you know where we are. This is SOUQ Pulse. We will open up and get to tell you more of what we'll be talking about today. But before we get to that particular junction, let me still tell you that my co-host is still here with me, Grace. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Chuks. It's always a pleasure, being here on SOUQ Pulse, bringing you topical issues, not just within Nigeria, but of course across Africa. And of course, there are topics that sparks conversation. I want to believe that at the end of the show today, we'll be going away with some deeper knowledge. But I come to you, Chuks, because you've talked about dollar rates, and all of that briefly. Let me come to you. Are you a fan of imported products or Nigerian-made products?
If I sit here and talk Africa and speak Nigeria, I can't be a fan of imported products. Now, the thing is this, trade is give and take. Okay. So at what point is it profitable to us or beneficial to us? And that leads us to what we are looking at today. coin it this way. We are looking at made in Asia, made in Europe, sold in Africa. How can we shift this balance of trade? To who is the benefit tilting towards the more? Then now we're looking at African economies based on what is happening at the present time, like now. Is this trade favorable to us? And how can we shift this? We will be looking at a whole lot of indices and things that is making this not favorable, because that is what it is right now. We can't have a Naira or the cedis or some other monies of other nations
currencies
within Africa here and West Africa here that keep losing value on the daily, and we say that let's wait for a policy from the government. What can we do? What can we talk? What policies do we think should change? What productivity or what activity needs to change? To get us on the way and get this particular conversation going, we have our own in-house analyst, a learned fellow, yes, by all means, a trainer of trainers. We have Mr. Sam. Good afternoon, sir. You're welcome.
It's my pleasure being here.
You're welcome, sir.
You're welcome, sir.
It's my pleasure.
We've missed you for a while, sir.
Honestly.
Thank you for having me.
You don't thank us yet. You went to go train a whole lot of people, both within and outside Nigeria, and now you're back with us. I hope at least you give us some weeks before you decide to disappear again.
I'm here with you.
Amen.
That's great.
So we'll sign that into law. He's here with us. So, sir, we are looking at trade, but we're looking at trade from the sense of our over-reliance on imported products. And when I say Africa over-reliance, in everything, in every industry, we import far less than we export, and that is where the productivity is coming from. If you don't produce, you end up depending on somebody else. Let's give a typical example. Food. 2021, Africa imported 16.6 million metric tons of rice, our daily staple. 2022, we imported 18.7 million metric tons of rice. There are fertile lands from the north of Africa to the west. There are farmers that you can even plant during dry season in West Africa. Now we are looking at, because this is crunch time for us, whether we like it or not, this is crunch time. We woke up this morning and saw dollar at 1,450 in some places. Then officially it fell down to 1,300. So if we don't stand up and take some certain measures, things are going to get worse. So sir, let's break this ice. Where do we start from? This importation versus exportation on the African side.
Thank you very much indeed, Chuks. Before we go into the specific discussion in respect of African trade vis-a-vis the global trade, the challenge that we have had from the colonial time in terms of trade imbalance between Africa and the global north has been a major challenge. Number one, the challenge, particularly from Africa, where we export primary commodity to the global north, and we depend essentially in importing finished product from the global north, has been a major challenge in trying to balance the trade. Even if you look at the global trade scenario, Africans just have about 3% of the total world trade. That's a major challenge. So there are two aspects of it. The political economy of how the African colonial mercantile system was designed need to be redesigned. Two.
Sorry, I will always stop you at redesigned by who?
We.
Who is
African?
Who is? Thank you very much.
We,
can you
African,
emphasize that again?
Yes, I'm going that way.
Okay.
We have this over-dependence on import, and this propensity for Africans to depend on foreign defense. Look at 3 or 4 seated here, and look at our package in terms of the dressing. I think to a very large extent,
yes,
we are import dependent.
We are culprits of this
narrative.
narrative.
Of this same thing that you are talking about. So
I think both of us.
What we need to do really is to find a way where we reduce over-dependence on import. And we need to look at our resource endowment as a continent, we look at the population of over 1.something billion people. We need to take advantage of the African Free Trade Agreement that is in place so that we can find a way to redirect the primary products that we pull out in form of export and see how we can make this one into finished products. Then we consume some of those items within Africa. If you look at the statistics in terms of what Ibrahim Foundation put up last year in terms of the global trade, China has over 40-something% in terms of imports. What they bring here. So
what they bring to Africa.
Africa, and that is not good enough. When you look at the ratio of what goes out in terms of primary commodity to those nations, so it behoves of African leadership. Africans themselves need to rethink the way we do business and see how we can look inward to consume our own product. And I think we need to close our border, but we need a large political will to do this. So it's not just mounting the colonial heritage that is important. We must walk the talk.
Okay, I think I want to come in here. There was this training between ADSC and FRC, Fiscal Responsibility Commission, and then there are lots of agencies at that event. So some of the interviews we took, the DG, I think, of natural medicine and all of that, we had this conversation. I'm bringing this, just because of what you said, talking about we having to import a lot. But he actually said that when you are not satisfied, you can't be thinking of exporting. Talking about natural medicine, that...
Now, are you speaking on his behalf or you're quoting him?
Yes, that's what he said. I'm quoting him.
You're quoting him?
Of course, of course. So
I wanted to ask the question, but I remember that you are the one speaking, not him.
Okay, so I want to ask if you agree with him, because he was saying that you have to feed your home. Now, using this natural medicine, you have to ensure you have more than enough. The people are okay, they are feeling well, they have more than enough to take care of themselves before you can now think of exporting. Though he's aware that there are a lot of benefits, when it comes to foreign exchange, importation and exportation and all of that. Do you agree that we need to have enough for ourselves first before even thinking of exporting? Probably that is why we have Nigerians doing so much of consumption rather than exporting.
I think the point that Professor trying to underscore, not holding prayer for him, is thinking that for us to be able to do well in Africa, we need to have a mind shift. First and foremost, believe in our natural products, and we need to consume our natural products so that over-dependence on import will be reduced minimally. I think the point you're trying to make is that you must be satisfied at home, but then if you don't consume what you produce, who is going to make you satisfied? So it's important that we need to have a mind shift towards consuming our own products. And the over-reliance on import, we equally find a way that this over-reliance on foreign exchange will reduce drastically.
Okay.
So there's a political economy, there's international diplomacy in the kind of trade relationship that we've experienced as Africa. So the leadership, in line with Africans, must find a way to do this mind shift, to look inward. We have the potential, we have the market, we have the natural resource endowment. Most of the primary commodity are taken away from Africa, they are refined, and they are shipped back to us, and we pay times 10 of that.
Okay, so there's this mindset. Some people, I wouldn't say everybody, some people believe that these imported products are more of quality than some of African-made products, or even, let's bring it home, some Nigerian-made products. How do you want to, take people away from this mindset, knowing that we have people that have good, when it comes to manufacturing, there are major items you can lay your hands on and say, oh, these are specifics from Nigeria, and they are great products. So I think it's important. So how do you think we can begin to make people shift from this mindset?
Okay, the challenge in terms of standardization of products is there, but then from our own perspective, there's what we call international propaganda. The point, the West has always found a way to tweak our mind to see that whatever comes from Africa is substandard. I don't share that view. Why we have products that meet international standard? But then, if you look at the political economy and international propaganda, the fact remains that most times people try to see how our products are classified as substandard. We have products that are standardized and meet every international standard that you can think about. But when you look at it from the perspective of international propaganda, they always say African things are substandard. But that is not to say that we don't have things that don't meet international best practices. So the point I'm trying to make, initially when China closed its door to the West, there were a lot of propaganda in that area. Even Japan, initially the products that come to from Japan, people criticize them as substandard. But over time, Japan has a very significant place in terms of manufacturing in the world. So the point I'm trying to make here is that Africans and African leaders must find a way to support their own and find the regulatory framework that will improve in terms of standardization so that we can consume our own product. This over-dependence on import will reduce over a period of time. Then too, the colonial heritage is a major challenge where you have Anglophone, Lusophone, Francophone. Once you're able to bring down these walls that inhibit trade among Africans, then we can make some progress in this area, in my view.
Okay, now let's bring this home. So a lot of times, like when you were talking, you kept making reference to government and leadership. Now, when these statements are made, people wait and say, okay, it's not me. I'm waiting for APC, I'm waiting for Tinubu, I'm waiting for Kufo in Ghana, I'm waiting for the Kenyan president, Ruto, that is traveling 50-something trips in less than a year. I'm waiting for the South African president. Now let's bring this home. Me, you watching. What are the foods on your table? A lot of the things we consume here in Africa, both food and clothes, we really don't need them. That's the basic. We really don't need them. You see people wear some clothes in the name of fashion that we don't need.
That's because we want to do what they are doing.
Who is doing?
So, I mean, Africans want to do what the Europe are doing, what, you understand?
I'm trying
the way
to understand.
Of dressing and
Sir, this question is going to come to. Now, is it possible, during Obasanjo's administration, if you remember, the president of Nigeria, at a point in time, he had to place a complete ban on some imported products, fruit juice, some yogurt, several other things. And that was what gave rise to a lot of
products,
companies here to set up. Now, gradually, those particular ban has been slacked. And we now see these products, be them coming in directly or indirectly. Can we say for some non-essential items, let us start, because the moment a ship berths in our port, that tells a whole lot of pressure that has been put on the dollar to bring that particular item this way. How can we start saying non-essential product we can survive without? Let us stop. If you want them, then look for an alternative here. I think that should be the first point of call. Is it possible?
I think earlier we spoke to the issue of mindset. I think what we need to do is what you call mind engineering. We need to tweak our mind in the sense that whatever comes from the West or from Asia are not essentially the best of products. So, and I mentioned citizens, and just a moment.
Say best or not best. Don't even bring them at all.
No, the point I'm trying to make is once your consumption habit changes and you do what you call mind engineering, where you can take in your products, you believe in your products, you believe in your services, not even the government now. First and foremost, you must consume the fruit juice that are produced within Africa. First and foremost, you need to open up the African space in terms of trade. We have the regulatory framework there, but we are finding it difficult to trade among ourselves. So the mind engineering, particularly in Nigeria, has to start from us consume made in Nigerian goods and services, and the government must equally show an initiative, particularly in terms of what they consume in these various state houses, and then people can imbibe the culture of consuming what is produced. Then that will provide the right impetus for us to move in the direction to reduce the consumption of import. China did it, Japan did it, then we can do it.
Okay, so I think I want to comment this way. I want to ask this question: can ban of products lead to hardship of a country? I'm asking this because the previous administration actually banned about 40-something products, and you know, it was a lot of clamor out there that, oh no, we are starving and all of that. Closing, Chuks, allowing me, you know, border closure and all of that. And you see business individuals saying, oh, you've shut down our businesses, we can't do this. Are there, I mean, this is the question, does it bring in hardship? If it does, how can government ensure that this doesn't happen, despite the idea of wanting to place ban on some products?
One of the major instruments across the globe is discipline. Once you're disciplined, then you can enhance prosperity. So ban essentially will not make people to suffer. But then I mentioned a key word. I talked about the political economy. To what extent do we have the political will? To what extent do we have the political capital to deal with self-interest and narrow agenda of individuals that benefit from the current configuration that is import dependent? There is what you might call in the Nigerian language, there are cabals who benefit from this superstructure that supports import. When will we have that political will and that collective interest as a people to say enough is enough? So outright ban will not make people to suffer, in my view, but then the government and as a collective, as a people, we must find a way to say, okay, wait a minute. Once we import items from Europe or from Asia, then there's pressure on the foreign exchange market, and that has negative impact on cost of living and the standard of living within Africa. Then we have to make that conscious decision. Even Ghana, that Chuks mentioned earlier, is even far better than Nigeria in some respect. I do know in one of my engagements in Ghana recently, what they have done for some of their primary products, they ask Chinese people not to take those things as primary raw commodities. They should find a way of making them semi-processed products before they leave Ghana for export, so that you create a value chain that will sustain the life of the average citizen who is a farmer in Ghana, even though they have some challenge currently. But that to a very large extent has put food on table of many Ghanaians in terms of they are taking some fruits. So for you to take the fruits away, don't take them as raw fruits, try and prepare them into concentrates. So there's a value chain to a very large extent that will help to grow the economy.
Where is Nigeria? You just mentioned Ghana. Where is Nigeria in this?
Yeah, I think to some extent there are some policy framework that support those things. So the clamor is that we should focus more on how we can produce some of these things and consume them locally. And there are a lot of improvement in terms of packaging, in terms of those who order allied services in the agricultural value chain. And I think we need to encourage this consumption as a people. So we don't always point to the government, And look at us here. We are pro-West even in all that we are wearing, including me, because the raw material that make up this, what you call Africa design, is not essentially ours as well.
Okay. We take the blame for our own issues. But before we tell you the next part where we are going to call you out, we'll go on a break. SOUQ Pulse will be right back.
name is Dr. Rafiu Oladipo.
My name is Baba Jalal Repega.
I'm Reverend Juliet Benite.
I'm Godio Didi.
My name is Professor Oladokun Sulaiman Olarawaju.
SOUQ News is on the ground, loading.
Very enlightening, very educative, and entertaining.
Thank you to SOUQ News.
So I'm happy that SOUQ TV has come into existence.
I'm happy to be here in the SOUQ News.
I want to encourage you to subscribe to the channel and keep watching news that makes sense.
As Browning said, one's extension of one's reach should not exceed one's grasp, or what is heaven for. And I think SOUQ News is doing that.
Africa needs a voice of truth, and SOUQ News has become one of them. And get ready, get ready, get ready.
And keep watching.
Keep watching SOUQ News.
Keep watching SOUQ News. It's a place to be.
Keep watching SOUQ News.
Yes, welcome back to SOUQ Pulse. We're here and we're looking at our over-dependence on imported products, be it from China, be it from Europe, be it from the Middle East, be it from any part of the world. And we are looking at, okay, do we even export a 10% of what we bring into this country? Our consumption, what is it like? Sir, I'm coming back to you. You've talked about political will, political will, political will. Most times they say the buck falls on the decks of the leader. Now we see the rate at which, or the way our leaders, I call them politicians, several of them, the way they live, the kind of lifestyle they live, the cars they drive, the luxury they live in, they are not treated here. When they get sick, no matter the budget for a clinic, presidential or non-presidential, they still go, they are importing health services. They go out there, medical tourism. Now, how can the people or we from the media now have this narrative and say, no, everything that puts pressure on our foreign reserve or our foreign earning should stop? How can we say that this sense, this sincerity of purpose from the political class, how can we address this particular issue? The way they live, the way they travel, the way they move around?
I think essentially, I think we have a problem, even as a people, as a collective, whether as Nigerian, as African. I think we have this mindset that we don't place a demand on leadership. And that's one of the major challenges. Or till Africans come and put a strategic demand on leadership in terms of accountability, transparency, and the collective interest of Africa going forward might just be a mirage in my view. So citizen diplomacy is very essential to changing that narrative. So as a collective, can our leader continue to live in luxury while the majority of people wallow in poverty?
Can we afford it?
We can, but how do we achieve this?
We
when
can't
you have a docile,
at whose detriment?
No, when you have a docile citizen, we are docile as a people. We cannot place demand on leadership until we come to that realization, including the media, whose role is agenda setting. The social responsibility concept of the media has not even been touched in any way to place a genuine demand.
I think
because the media
let's also give an example.
Equally used, just a moment, let me make this point, it's very strong. Has been involved in what I call adversarial journalism, where you don't engage. The concept of brand envelope has taken that industry to a point that even social responsibility concept of the media doesn't even work place. So we need to place a strong demand on our leaders. Accountability, very critical.
Very true.
Yeah.
I agree with you, but you know, speaking about transparency, speaking about media projecting what is actually core, or we as Nigerians or Africans, you know, projecting, pushing out for the real thing. To some extent, you agree with me that that's freedom. Now you come, let me speak to freedom of journalism, you know, having...
Let's get back to our topic.
We'll get back to the topic.
Okay.
We'll definitely, I'm bringing you back there.
Okay.
You know, so at some point, you see that people even push, but that's complete liberty is not there, especially when you connect it to the place of power. You're talking about politicians, they have the power, they could take decisions, they could do it this way. Do you understand? I mean, I think it also speaks to giving that total freedom for people to be able to go to every necessary extent to do what is right. And when they are doing it, nobody is saying, who are you? Why are you doing it? Because it's for collective good. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. It's
but let me just interject you. The point is that civilization, nobody gives you freedom. You fight for freedom. And every climb that we try to benchmark had challenges, but the citizens make it as a point of duty that we will not continue at this point. So the point I'm trying to make here is that citizen diplomacy must be deployed. And what that means is there needs to be advocacy that as Africans, we must consume our products. In addition to that, this luxury lifestyle that our leaders live at the detriment of the common good must equally be fought by citizens so that we'll get to a point where we rely essentially on what we produce.
So
it has been done.
So while
elsewhere.
leadership, while citizens are fighting for that, is it possible that we have policies mandating that if you are in this position, these and these, A and B, should be done within Nigeria and not go abroad?
Yeah, even
such
the,
as the
even the citizens themselves.
Yes.
To what extent do they imbibe the culture of what they produce?
Yeah, but it begins with leadership.
No.
At least let's take it from there first.
We should always blame the leadership.
We are all
We are all
Nigerians.
together, I agree.
Where did the leader come from?
Yes, we are.
Where did the leader come
I agree with you, but leaders set examples.
Yeah,
The
we
leader
agree.
came from
But the
amongst the
point,
people, right?
the
Yes.
point going from here, Grace,
Yes.
is that we must make that collective decision as a people that we must look inward. And wherever we are in our little spaces, our little ecosystems, we need to find a way to patronize, made in Nigeria and African goods. So we have a big policy that was signed into law in 2021. The African Free Trade Agreement or African Free Trade Area.
Okay, we are coming to that. Let's slow down on
That
that.
has a population of about 1.something billion people.
We are coming
We
to
have
that, sir. Can you just
54 countries
slow down on
make
that?
up the country of Africa.
Slow down on that, sir.
So what are we talking about?
Now, sir, let's still come back to. We have seen Asia. They are the major trading partners of Africa for now. We have seen Asia come out directly. Now, in several countries, Djibouti, Cote d'Ivoire, Kenya, Asia is not just building rails, they are building ports, seaports. Now, most people might not understand. They say, yes, it's good. Yes, it's development. But to what extent are those countries going to export from those seaports to Asia or to other places? A lot of these particular seaports are going to serve the country. The country will make money, but a lot of the goods coming in is going to come from Asia. So now, I don't know if you understand. They are intentional about trade to their favor, and they commit their finances and their money to it. To what extent can African leaders start being intentional? Even if we are not exporting to the West or to Asia, let's now go back and look at all those trade agreements we've signed amongst African nations. Where and what is stopping those implementations, sir?
No, I think the point here is that I still go back to the point of departure when we started this conversation. This international political economy that is not favorable to African, we need to rework it. And I recall that you asked the question, how do we do that? the point is that Africa is blessed with primary commodity products. To a very large extent, we export these primary commodities outside. Why can't we review some of these obnoxious international trade agreements to say, even if we don't achieve 100% at the initial term, that for us, we will not export some of these raw materials in their primary commodity form, that we need to refine them to about 70 or 80% within the ecosystems where those raw materials are domiciled. That will give us some strategic mileage in terms of our ability to save foreign exchange, our ability to create employment, our ability to reduce import dependency. And if you look at the various development theories, when you talk about import dependency, there are a lot of theories that have been espoused by academics that we need to revise that import dependency theory based on the resource endowment theory, that some of these primary products that are produced here should be refined almost to their 100%. So if you want to build the port for me, no problem. But then if you want to take my cocoa from my backyard, then you take it as a primary product, you take it to Switzerland, you manufacture it as a chocolate, and you sell it to me in 1,000-fold. So this trade imbalances...
Can't we say, if you take my cocoa, don't bring chocolate this way?
But that's the point I'm trying to make, that we should make it not the Nestle's of this world, who does some little manufacturing, encourage farmers in some. Let's see how, to what extent, these companies manufacturing can be domiciled within Africa. They take the raw material here, they manufacture them here, they process them here, they are packaged here, we consume them here, rather than taking them as primary products, then you bring them back and sell to us. So, is two things. I talk about mind engineering, which is very essential. Two, we need a political leadership. Then we need to break down the walls of these Anglo, Lusophone, whatever names they are called. And I'm happy recently where, not a digression, where the military juntas pull away from ECOWAS. Again, ECOWAS was supposed to be an economic union that was supposed to sustain trade within the countries that make up the economic community of West Africa. But to what extent are you able to trade with the Francophone or the Lusophone countries? There's been barriers to trade, but we have beautiful partnership agreements and conventions, but then they don't work in our favor. So those international government find a way to suppress our development. So for us to reduce import dependency, I always want to go back to your initial question, is to rework our mind. The leadership must be very drastic in terms of placing ban. Ban does not kill anybody, all right? So that we can get things right. China closed their door and nothing happened. And today is one of the fastest growing economy and one of the biggest destinations.
And they are living longer.
So the point is the 54 African leaders must win themselves of this colonial, neoliberal economic thinking that has held us down for so many years, so that we can free ourselves from the clutches of imperialism that has held African down. It has to be drastic, because the way Africa is going, if we continue in this direction, then we're going to be a dumping ground for the global north.
Okay, so I want to bring it to education. So, you know, to some extent, Africans are being shaded. You hear people say, if you want to hide something away from Africans, you put it in a book. saying that probably you don't read well. I don't agree with that actually, but I'm going somewhere.
But you're saying
you don't have to look at me.
Of
I am
course
going somewhere.
I heard you say it.
Because I want to make a point. You understand? So
But
I
I
have
still
to
heard you
refer
say
to
it.
Yes, I have to refer to that because I want to make a point. So they believe that Africans don't really read. They don't have so much knowledge. When you speak of technology, you are talking about China, you know, and the likes of them. And you don't see, you know, Africans that much in the list. Forgetting that in other areas, too, in other spheres, Africans are really doing well. So, do you think there is a need to enhance learning skills? Because I'll bring this in again. I remember we had a conversation on this show. Dr. Idausa mentioned that bringing in expatriates, it has to do with the fact that we don't have experts. Not necessarily in every area, but in some area. So we don't have experts. And that is why they have to go to the extent of bringing, you know, expatriates to take care of some major things. So looking at knowledge sharing, skills development, and all of that, what do you think we need to do more? So we don't keep throwing all of what we have outside. We use our people to get what we want.
I think if you talk about knowledge, skills, and brain power endowment, Africa has not been left out. There's no industry in the world, as we speak today, that Africans are not major player in terms of the knowledge ecosystem. But what is important is that governments, particularly African government, must make a deliberate plan to see how we can bring our eggheads back home, pay them reasonable salaries as experts, and see how we can shape the conversation in terms of how we can look inward. We have the best of minds. We have knowledge, we have the experts that can do anything. But again, I go back to that point that I made earlier. This international propaganda, international communication that skew the negative narrative in terms of international communication in favor of the global north may not sustain Africa for a long time. So you're right, we may lack some experts in some areas locally, but we have them globally. So like what they did in Singapore in the early 60s, Lee Kuan Yew had a deliberate policy where the best brains were brought into Singapore for its development. The civil servants were paid the best of salaries, and they were competing favorably. And the trajectory of Singapore was changed for the best. So we need that deliberate leadership. We need strategic leaders who can take decisions, have the courage to equally stay, because the West will continually put us down so that the development equation will not balance in our favor, in my view.
So
yes.
I don't want it to be balanced. I want Africa to do exceedingly well.
Oh, great.
So it's just like a market. Everyone puts out his wares or his goods out there and put up an advert or talk about it. And we have decided to keep watching Asia, Europe, and others advertise to our face. Right? So once you turn on the TV, that is all what you see. And that has affected the African mind right from when you were a child. Now let's look at the several other places where we export foreign exchange and get nothing back. Tourism. A lot of times we see advertorials of festivals not happening in Africa, happening be it Brazil, be it the UK, be it the US, tourist sites, be it these same places. Medical tourism, the same thing. We also have, she talked about education. As we speak, Canada cannot shut their borders because they are making a lot from African students coming that way. We see it as acquiring education. Yes, it's good. But at the same time, they see
Building
it
their
as
economy.
Building their economy. Same thing with the UK.
Yes.
There was a policy that was passed some not up to 2 months in the UK about bringing dependents,
Yes,
students bringing dependents. As we speak right now, they are trying to reverse that particular policy because it is affecting the monies that is coming through that particular system. How can we say, okay, good, you have your money, you can go study wherever you want to study, but let's also better our system this way and reduce the amount of people that will want to go out there and spend more. Because each student that want to travel, by January, everybody's busy looking for dollar here, there to pay school fee.
Of course.
So what can we do to the health, the education, and our tourist sites?
I think I will always go back to the beginning of this conversation. If you don't believe in yourself, who else could believe in you? That's the starting point. So I use this advisedly. We have so many tourist attractions within Africa. But then to travel within Africa is more expensive. So these are conversations that we must sustain as a people. And thank God that even the leadership, under the leadership of Paul Kagame, signed up this African Free Trade Development Area. I think the focus of our conversation, to what extent can we make that free trade with all the mechanisms that were put in place to work for Africa? So we need to develop tourism. We need to make money transfers, foreign exchange earning easy, ease of doing business among Africans. So if we remove these colonial walls that divide us as Africans, maybe that would be a good starting point to arriving at some of these questions that you just posed. So number one, we must develop industries. We must make ease of doing business among Africans. Then government must put initiative to develop centers of excellence in terms of medical facilities where leaders can have access rather than going outside. And I recall, even in the middle of the 80s, when we were undergraduates, we used to have international students coming to study with us.
I think
and I read in one of the inaugural lectures.
I witnessed that too.
Yes, in one of the inaugural lecture of the University of Ibadan, I have a collection of inaugural lecture for about 20 years. One of the kings from the Middle East used to come to UCH to do Medicare. So it was not really bad at a particular point in time. So where did we get it wrong? So we need to do that mind engineering to see what happened in terms of the social infrastructure, what went wrong, then how can we fix Nigeria in particular, how can we fix Africa, and we can do business. And the market is here, but we need the collectives of African to travel within Africa, first and foremost, school within Africa, then buy made in African goods.
Okay.
That will help us to move in that trajectory.
We are gradually rounding up, but you mentioned about developed industries. So I'm really bringing this home. Like, I'm looking at me, you, and asking ourselves these questions. Now, let's look at this first one. We have local African airlines. And it's difficult for African airlines to have connectivity within Africa. We're not even talking about the West or Asia. And it's easier for airlines from outside to have those connectivity than African airlines. How do we break that? Secondly, we're looking at industries. Let's take Nigeria, for example. A lot of industries that used to be there in the 90s and early 20s, a lot of them have left. In place of those industries, Oregu, down Orile, Ilupeju, we now see churches taking over those particular places. I'm not anti-religious, but I see that, to me, I'm just speaking, the church should get people to work. So if we are now taking over spaces that used to be sites for industries, what exactly are we preaching?
Again, I like to go back, and this is deliberate, is that where you don't have a proper mind engineering, and if people are wired to think that manners fall from heaven, and that you can earn wealth without enterprise, then you're going to have a problem where people are stuck somewhere, praying for survival. I believe in spirituality, but then the way we do those things, where you're supposed to work, people are wasting time, spending time. We're supposed to be at work. You're going to take 3 hours to pray somewhere. Things don't work that way. They are natural principles. If you work, and some of the holy book says, God will bless the work of your hands. So I'm not able to put the Bible verse appropriately. But then the point is that we can achieve a lot if we do that mind engineering by looking inward. First and foremost, we must believe in ourselves as a collective, as a people, as Nigerians first and foremost, as Africans. Then, on the other hand, these industries must be supported, and that's where the regulatory framework come into play. So for us to do business, why don't you cite your industries here? So government is able to give tax holidays, tax incentive, then our propensity to consume luxury and foreign item, we must equally do a mind engineering that can shape that.
Speak to the airlines. What should African leaders do?
No, the point is that I already spoke to that earlier, that even to travel within Africa is more expensive than to travel to Asia or to travel to Europe. So there are regulatory framework already put in place. Then the governments, government to government, people to people, must find a way to see how we can take advantage of this African free trade area or free trade agreement that we put in place since 2021. And not even 1% of some of the regulatory framework that were put in that document has been achieved.
Okay.
So therefore, one of the major impediment to African development is this colonial wars that is making it difficult for us to trade. So we need to look inward to pull those walls down. Then airlines must find a way to improve on their connectivity, but there's international conspiracy in terms of airline business.
Let's take this last one. You've talked about mind engineering. In fact, you've mentioned it over and over again. You've also mentioned government doing what is right and even industries, right? I want you to speak to individuals. I'm taking you to the sport industry. You see our sportmen and women being attracted by, foreign clubs, and all of that. I want you to speak to them individually. Now, we know that government have a lot to do. We know that industries have a lot to do. But as an individual, what is it that we can do differently, to make it better from here, rather than running to outside clubs and all of that?
I will see it from the perspective of global trade, that we have talent that can be exported. To that extent, when you talk about international remittances, what come through these exchanges are a welcoming development, in my view. So I think if you export talents, and talents are exported everywhere, whether in terms of knowledge, whether in terms of sport, in terms of other skill asset that people have to export. So I don't have any problem.
So, but in a situation when it affects the home country, what do you think?
No, the point is that the country in itself must find a way to develop local talents that will grow to international talent. So where a set of people have become exportable commodity, in quotes, then other talents should be trained in the pipeline to replace those ones. So the government should invest in terms of sport development, youth development, so that we can constantly fill the pipeline to replace those talents that have become very international. So there's nothing wrong in exporting talent because they are earning big money. I wish I could play football to that level, but regrettably or sadly,
I think it's the money that we need anyways. It's the money we need, so we are talking about
that's a welcome development in terms of export regime.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much,
My
Mr.
pleasure.
Sam. We are indeed very grateful that you graced this program for today. We can't talk about this enough. We won't stop talking about this. Our dependence on importation we can't stop talking about this. Our luxury lifestyle, if it's products made here, no problem. But we depend on the West, depend on Asia, depend down to the extent of imported toothpick. Is that bad? Pencil, is that bad? Matchsticks, it's very bad. Now we put too much pressure on the dollar and tomorrow we all sit and cry. The government won't be able to sort all the problems. No amount of policy from CBN will, if we don't start to make production and produce things to bring to the market and sell. So to our African leaders, to all politicians, to you that is about to run an industry, to you that is thinking of backing up an industry, to you at home sitting and praying that God will make a miracle. No, it doesn't work that way. We have to work, and to work is now. We at SOUQ PULSE, we beg you, get busy. Thank you for watching. My name is Chuks, John Rogers.
All right, so, I mentioned at the beginning that we'll be having a deep understanding at the end of this show. I want to believe that we've been able to do justice to that. Yes, and we'll be coming your way again tomorrow, same time, same station on SOUQ PULSE. I want to encourage you to always be for Nigeria. Yes, nothing else but Nigeria. Until tomorrow again, we see you. Do have an amazing time out there. Bye-bye.